The warning, ignored. Commander Thexvor stood on the bridge of the Vacrian warship Eternal Dominion, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he gazed at the star map floating before him. The holographic display showed dozens of systems, each one marked with the crimson seal of Vacrian conquest. 47 civilizations had fallen before their military might in the last century alone. The pattern was always the same: arrival, demonstration of superior force, negotiation, and finally submission. It was efficient. It was logical. It was the Vacrian way. His second-in-command, Officer Krelnex, approached with measured steps. The Vacrians prided themselves on discipline and order, traits that had carried them from their ice-covered homeworld to dominance over a significant portion of the galaxy. Krelnex's movements were precise, almost mechanical, as he handed Thexvor a data tablet. "Commander, we have received another transmission from the Zanari," Krelnex reported, his voice devoid of emotion as protocol demanded. Thexvor's eyes narrowed. The Zanari were an enigma, an ancient species that had withdrawn from galactic affairs millennia ago. They rarely communicated with anyone, preferring to observe from the shadows of space. Their technology was beyond even Vacrian understanding, and their knowledge of the universe was unmatched. When they spoke, it was worth listening. Usually. "Play it," Thexvor commanded. The holographic display shifted, and the image of a Zanari elder materialized. The being's form was ethereal, almost translucent, with eyes that seemed to hold the weight of eons. When it spoke, its voice resonated through the bridge like a distant echo. "Commander Thexvor of the Vacrian Empire, we offer you counsel born from observation, spanning countless ages. Your fleet approaches the territory of a species known as humans. We urge you to reconsider. They are not like the others you have conquered. There is something within them, something that defies the natural order of power and dominance. They possess an element that cannot be measured by your instruments or predicted by your strategists. Turn away, Commander. This is not a species to be underestimated." The message ended, leaving silence in its wake. Krelnex looked at his commander expectantly, awaiting orders. Thexvor studied the star map once more, his attention fixed on a small cluster of systems marked in yellow, indicating unexplored territory claimed by this human species. "Analysis of human capabilities?" Thexvor asked. Krelnex tapped his own data tablet, pulling up the information. Preliminary scans indicate a species approximately 2 centuries into space exploration. Their technology is adequate but primitive compared to ours. Weapon systems are conventional, based on kinetic and chemical reactions with some early energy weapons. Their ships are functional but lack the speed and defensive capabilities of our fleet. Population centers are scattered across multiple worlds, suggesting weak centralized authority. Military assessment: minimal threat level. Thexvor's mandibles clicked together in what passed for a Vacrian smile. The Zanari have grown soft in their isolation. They speak of mysteries and unknown elements, but I see only another primitive species ripe for integration into the Empire. Perhaps they had some quality that troubled the Zanari long ago. But times change. Civilizations rise and fall. Whatever the Zanari feared, it has likely been bred out through comfort and complacency. "Shall I set course for the human colonies, Commander?" Krelnex inquired. "Indeed. We begin with their mining colony on the planet they call Kepler 442b. It appears to be a resource extraction facility with minimal military presence, a perfect demonstration of Vacrian superiority. Once they see the futility of resistance, the rest of their species will fall in line." The Eternal Dominion and its accompanying fleet of 12 warships shifted course, their quantum drives propelling them through folded space toward human territory. Within 3 standard cycles, they emerged at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, their sensors immediately locking onto the mining colony orbiting the 4th planet. On the surface of Kepler 442b, Colony Director Sarah Chen was reviewing the monthly production reports when the alarms began to wail. She was a woman in her mid-40s, her dark hair tied back in a practical bun, her jumpsuit marked with the logo of the Terrestrial Mining Consortium. She had spent 15 years on frontier colonies, working her way up from geological surveyor to director. Kepler 442b was her responsibility, and she took that seriously. "Director Chen, we have unidentified vessels entering the system," her security chief, Tom Briggs, called out from the command center. "They're not responding to hails, and their configuration doesn't match any known human or registered alien design." Sarah rushed to the command center. her mind already running through protocols. First contact situations were rare but not unheard of. The colony had procedures for this. Keep trying to communicate. Send out friendship protocols in all standard languages, and get me aligned to Earth Command immediately. The response came faster than expected, but not in the way anyone hoped. The largest of the alien ships fired a beam of concentrated energy that struck the colony's communication array, reducing it to molten slag in seconds. The message was clear. Communication was not an option. Submission was expected. Battle stations, Sarah ordered, her voice steady despite the ice forming in her stomach. Get all non-essential personnel to the shelters. Tom, activate every defense we have. Director, we're a mining colony, Tom protested. We have some perimeter weapons for asteroid defense and wildlife control, but nothing meant for military engagement. Then we improvise, Sarah said firmly. We're not rolling over just because someone shows up with bigger guns. Get Marcus Webb up here. If anyone can weaponize our equipment, it's him. Marcus Webb was 28 years old, a brilliant engineer who had come to Kepler 442b because frontier colonies paid well and asked few questions about your past. He had been running from something when he arrived, though no one knew what. That didn't matter now. What mattered was that he could make a mining laser cut through solid rock or a cargo loader move 10 tons of ore. If those tools could be turned into weapons, Marcus would figure out how. He arrived in the command center within minutes, his eyes already scanning the displays showing the alien ships taking up positions around the colony. Vacrians, he muttered, reading the identification tags the computer had assigned based on ship configurations. Never heard of them. No one has, Sarah replied. But they just destroyed our communications and are surrounding us. I need options, Marcus. Fast. Marcus's fingers flew over the console, pulling up schematics of the colony's industrial equipment. Okay, the mining lasers can be refocused. They're designed to cut through rock but concentrated on a ship's hull. They might do some damage. The ore haulers have magnetic grapples strong enough to move asteroids. If we can get close enough, we could potentially disable their smaller ships. And the fusion reactors that power the colony. Those have potential, but it's risky. Everything's risky at this point, Sarah said. Do it. Convert whatever you can. Over the next hour, as the Vacrian ships maintained their positions, the colonists worked with desperate efficiency. Miners who had never held weapons in their lives now manned stations controlling repurposed industrial tools. The colony's small security force, barely 24 strong, took positions at key defensive points. Families huddled in reinforced shelters trying to keep children calm while the adults prepared for the worst. The Vacrian ultimatum arrived via a translated broadcast. Commander Thexvor's image appeared on every screen in the colony, his reptilian features and cold eyes radiating absolute confidence. Humans of Kepler 442b, you stand before the Vacrian Empire, conquerors of 47 systems. Resistance is illogical. Surrender your colony, and you will be integrated into our empire as workers. Refuse and you will be destroyed. You have 1 standard hour to comply. Sarah stood before the communications console, knowing her response would be recorded and potentially become part of history, if they survived. This is Colony Director Sarah Chen. I speak for all 3,000 souls on Kepler 442b. We don't know you, and we don't want conflict, but we also don't surrender our freedom. Because someone threatens us, we're willing to talk, to negotiate, to find peaceful solutions. But if you want this colony, you'll have to take it, and I promise you we'll make you regret every step. She cut the transmission and turned to her people. I know you're scared. I'm scared too, but we're human. We've survived ice ages and plagues, wars and disasters. We've looked extinction in the face before and said, not today. These Vacrians think we're weak because our technology isn't as advanced. They think we'll break because they have bigger ships. They're about to learn they're wrong. A young woman named Elena Martinez, barely 20, spoke up from her position at a mining laser control station. Director, what if we can't win? What if we're just delaying the inevitable? Sarah walked over to her, placing a hand on her shoulder. Elena, winning isn't always about defeating the enemy. Sometimes it's about showing them that defeating us costs more than they're willing to pay. Sometimes it's about buying time for others to learn what's happening here. And sometimes it's about looking at ourselves in the mirror afterward and knowing we stood up for what matters. We're humans. We don't give up just because the odds are bad. We fight smarter, harder, and with more heart than anyone expects. The hour passed too quickly. The Vakrian ships moved into attack formation, their weapon systems powering up. Commander Thex Vor had been confident the humans would see reason. Their failure to surrender was illogical, but it would be a short-lived defiance. The first wave of Vakrian assault craft launched, heading toward the colony's primary dome. Sarah gave the order, and the colonists opened fire. Mining lasers, never designed for combat, lanced out at the incoming craft. The Vakrians had shields, but the concentrated energy beams were powerful enough to cause fluctuations and damage. 2 assault craft spiraled away, their systems failing. The Vakrian fighters adapted quickly, spreading out to divide the defensive fire. They returned fire with precision strikes targeting the laser installations. Explosions rocked the colony as defensive positions were destroyed, but each time a station fell, other colonists moved to fill the gap. Marcus had rigged the ore haulers with remote controls, sending them out into space like massive, clumsy fighters. When a Vakrian assault craft flew too close, magnetic grapples locked onto it, pulling it off course and sending it tumbling. The Vakrians hadn't expected such tactics. Their military doctrine was based on conventional warfare between similar forces. This was chaos. In orbit, Commander Thex Vor watched the battle with growing frustration. Why are they still fighting? Our ships outnumber them 10-1. Our weapons are superior. They must see they cannot win. Officer Krell next reviewed the data streaming in from the battle. Commander, I am detecting unusual tactics. They are using industrial equipment as weapons. Their defensive positions are manned by civilians, not trained military, and they are coordinating their efforts with remarkable efficiency, despite having no military command structure. They are animals cornered and lashing out, Thex Vor dismissed. Send in the ground forces. We will take the colony by force and be done with this nonsense. Vakrian soldiers teleported directly into the colony's outer sections, their advanced armor and weapons making them formidable opponents. But the colonists knew every corridor, every access tunnel, every maintenance shaft. They used that knowledge ruthlessly. Makeshift barricades channeled the Vakrians into kill zones. Explosive charges rigged from mining equipment turned intersections into death traps. Tom Briggs led the security teams in close-quarters combat, his training from his military days coming back despite the years. He wasn't fighting to win. He was fighting to make the Vakrians pay for every meter they advanced. And beside him fought miners, engineers, teachers, and farmers, all united in the simple determination not to be conquered. The battle raged for 3 hours. The colony was taking heavy damage, fires burning in several sections, casualty reports mounting. But the Vakrians were suffering too, their assault forces taking unexpected losses, their ships harried by unconventional tactics that defied their understanding of warfare. In a maintenance tunnel near the fusion reactor complex, Marcus worked frantically on his last desperate plan. He had rigged the reactor's magnetic containment system to be disrupted on command, creating a massive electromagnetic pulse. It would knock out electronics across a wide radius, including the colony's own systems. But it would also disable the Vakrian ships. It was a gamble, one that might leave them all defenseless, but it might also be their only chance. Sarah found him there, her face smudged with soot, a bandage on her arm from a near miss. "Is it ready?" she asked. "Ready as it'll ever be," Marcus replied. "Sarah, this might not work, and if it does, we'll be sitting ducks until we can restart our systems manually." "I know," Sarah said. "But right now, they're treating us like we're already beaten. They're getting cocky. If we can hit them hard enough to make them rethink their approach, maybe we buy enough time for help to arrive from Earth. Or maybe we just show them that humans don't go quietly into the night." She activated the colony-wide communication system. "All personnel, this is Director Chen. In 60 seconds, we're going to hit them with everything we have left. Take cover, protect the civilians, and be ready to restart manually when the power comes back. Whatever happens next, know that you've made humanity proud today. No one will ever forget what we did here." Marcus looked at her, then at the activation controls. "For the record, I came here to run away from my life. But this is the first time in years I've felt like I'm doing something that matters." "That's what being human is about," Sarah said, rising to the moment when it counts. She placed her hand on the activation panel next to his. Together, they entered the sequence. The reactor's containment field destabilized in a carefully controlled cascade, releasing an electromagnetic pulse that radiated outward like an invisible shockwave. Throughout the colony, lights flickered and died. In orbit, Vakrian ships suddenly went dark, their systems overloaded by the unexpected surge of electromagnetic energy. In the command center of the Eternal Dominion, Thexfor watched in disbelief as half his fleet reported total systems failure. Emergency power was kicking in, but it would take hours to fully restore function. And the humans had just sacrificed their own power systems to strike back. What are they? He whispered, staring at the darkened colony that had just wounded his fleet. What kind of species does this? On Kepler 442b, in the darkness of the powered-down colony, Sarah and Marcus sat back against the reactor housing, exhausted and wounded, but alive. They had survived. Against impossible odds, they had survived. And somewhere in the vast distance of space, the ancient Zanari watched and nodded knowingly. They had tried to warn the Vakrians. Humans were special, not because of their technology or their physical strength, but because of something deeper, something that burned in their hearts and refused to die. The Vakrians had ignored the warning. Now they would learn why that was a mistake. Understanding the difference, the darkness that followed the electromagnetic pulse was absolute. For several long moments, the only sounds in the Kepler 442b colony were the hissing of escaping atmosphere from damaged sections and the labored breathing of exhausted colonists. Sarah Chen sat in the reactor chamber, her heart pounding as she waited to see if her desperate gamble had worked or merely delayed the inevitable. Manual systems coming online, Marcus announced, his voice hoarse as he worked by the light of a chemical glow stick. The pulse did exactly what we hoped. Our hardened systems can be restarted. Their ships, not so much. Throughout the colony, emergency protocols kicked in. Backup generators hummed to life, providing minimal power to essential systems. The colonists had drilled for disasters, never imagining one would involve an alien invasion, but their preparation was paying off now. Within 30 minutes, basic communications were restored. Tom Briggs's voice crackled over Sarah's emergency radio. "Director, you need to see this. The Vakrians are dead in the water. Half their fleet is drifting, and the other half is limping on emergency power. Their ground forces are cut off. Their teleporters not functioning. We've got them contained in sections C and F." Sarah allowed herself a moment of hope, but she knew this was only temporary. How long until they get their systems back? Best guess? 4 to 6 hours for the ships we hit hardest. But Sarah, there's more. We've been picking up transmissions. Earth knows what's happening here. Help is coming. In the captured sections of the colony, Vakrian soldiers found themselves in an unprecedented situation. Their armor's power systems had failed, their weapons were non-functional, and they were surrounded by humans who had every reason to be vengeful. Yet the humans did not execute them. Instead, they were herded into sealed compartments and given water and basic supplies. Among the captured was a Vakrian officer named Dex Ral, who had led one of the assault teams. He watched in confusion as a human medic, an older woman named Dr. Patricia Reeves, treated the wounds of Vakrian soldiers alongside injured colonists. "Why do you help us?" Dex Ral asked, his translator still functioning on battery power. "We came to conquer you. We killed your people." Dr. Reeves looked up from bandaging a Vakrian soldier's injured limb. "Because you're hurt and I'm a doctor. My job is to heal, not to judge. Besides, you're somebody's son, somebody's family. War doesn't change that." Dex Ral had served in 17 campaigns. He had seen conquered species beg, fight, and die, but he had never seen them show mercy to their enemies. It was illogical. It was inefficient. It was humane. Aboard the crippled Eternal Dominion, Commander Thexfor worked with his engineering teams to restore systems. The damage was extensive but not permanent. Yet the situation had fundamentally changed. His intelligence had been wrong. These humans were not primitive. They were adaptable, creative, and willing to sacrifice everything to remain free. Officer Krelnex approached with a data tablet. "Commander, I have been analyzing the human response. Their tactics violated 17 principles of conventional warfare. They used mining equipment as weapons, civilian personnel as soldiers, and sacrificed their own infrastructure to damage our fleet. By all logical calculations, they should have surrendered when they saw our superior force. But they did not," Thexfor said quietly. "The Zanari warned us. I dismissed their counsel as superstition. I was wrong. Before Krellnex could respond, the ship's sensors detected a new arrival. A vessel emerged from quantum space at the edge of the system. But it was neither human nor Vacrian. Its design was elegant and ancient, pulsing with energy that made Vacrian technology seem crude by comparison. The Zanari had returned. The communication came not through radio waves, but directly into the minds of everyone on the bridge. The Zanari elder's presence was gentle but overwhelming, like standing before an ocean. Commander Thexvor, we return to offer understanding. You have seen now what we tried to explain. The humans have shown you their nature. They are not powerful because of their weapons. They are powerful because of what they carry within their hearts. Thexvor steadied himself against his command chair. What they did was illogical. They could not win. They sacrificed their own systems to damage ours. They showed mercy to captured soldiers who tried to kill them. None of this follows rational strategic thinking. And that, the Zanari replied, is precisely what makes them special. They do not calculate odds before deciding to fight for their freedom. They do not measure the cost of mercy against potential gain. They simply refuse to accept defeat or abandon their principles regardless of the logic. This is not a weakness, Commander. It is a strength that has carried them through countless extinctions and disasters on their homeworld. They call it hope. They call it the human spirit, and it is more dangerous to their enemies than any weapon. The Zanari's ship took position between the Vacrian fleet and the colony, a clear message of protection. But before Thexvor could process this development, more ships appeared in the system. This time, they were human vessels, a fleet of 20 warships bearing the insignia of Earth Defense Command. The lead ship opened communications. This is Captain James Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Ship Indomitable. We are here for our people. Stand down and we can resolve this peacefully. Continue your attack, and we will show you why threatening humanity was your greatest mistake. Sarah received the transmission in the colony's command center and felt tears of relief sting her eyes. Earth had come. They were not alone. She opened a channel to the Indomitable. Captain Rodriguez, this is Colony Director Sarah Chen. We've held them off, but we've taken heavy casualties. The Vacrian fleet is damaged, but will restore function within hours. Understood, Director, Captain Rodriguez replied. You and your people have done the impossible. Help is here now. We'll handle it from here. But Sarah surprised everyone with her next words. Captain, we don't need to handle it with more violence. Request permission to open negotiations. These Vacrians came here believing we were weak. They've learned otherwise. Maybe it's time to show them we're not just strong, but also wise. On the Eternal Dominion, Thexvor listened to this exchange with growing amazement. The humans had won. Reinforcements had arrived. They could press their advantage and destroy his damaged fleet. Yet they were offering to talk. It defied everything he knew about conquest and warfare. The Zanari's presence filled his mind once more. You see now, Commander? They fight with all their strength when threatened, but they do not seek destruction for its own sake. They hope for better outcomes even after bloodshed. This is what we tried to tell you. Humans are not like other species. They carry contradictions within them, mercy and fury, logic and emotion, calculation and hope. They are the most dangerous and the most noble species we have encountered in 10,000 years of observation. Thexvor made a decision that would have been unthinkable hours earlier. He opened a channel to both the human fleet and the colony. Captain Rodriguez, Director Chen, I am Commander Thexvor of the Vacrian Empire. I came here to conquer you. I believed you were primitive and weak. I was instructed by the ancient Zanari to avoid humanity, but I dismissed their warning as irrelevant. I was wrong. He paused, choosing his next words carefully. In my career, I have conquered 47 civilizations. They fell because they could not match our military power, or because they calculated that survival under our rule was preferable to destruction. But you fought not because you could win, but because you would not accept defeat. You sacrificed your own infrastructure to damage my fleet. You showed mercy to captured soldiers who tried to kill you. You did everything wrong by military doctrine, yet you succeeded in ways I cannot fully comprehend. Captain Rodriguez listened intently. Are you surrendering, Commander? No, Thexvor said. I am proposing something unprecedented. The Vacrian Empire has never formed an alliance with the species we initially came to conquer, but I believe humanity deserves more than to be another entry in our records of subjugated worlds. I propose we end this conflict and establish diplomatic relations. We will withdraw from your territory. We will provide compensation for the damage we caused. And in return, I ask only that you help us understand what makes you so different from every other species in this galaxy." Silence filled the communication channels. Sarah looked at Marcus, who shrugged with a tired smile. "Well, that's not how I expected this to end." Captain Rodriguez's voice cut through the silence. "Commander Thexvor, I'll need to consult with Earth Command, but I'm authorized to begin preliminary negotiations. However, there are conditions. You will release all prisoners immediately. You will provide full medical assistance to our wounded, and you will allow Zanari mediation to ensure both sides honor any agreement we reach." "Agreed," Thexvor said without hesitation. Over the next several hours, as Vakrian engineers worked to restore their ships under the watchful eyes of human weapons, a remarkable transformation occurred. Vakrian soldiers, freed from containment, worked alongside colonists to repair damage to the colony. Vakrian medical technology, far advanced beyond human capabilities, saved lives of colonists who would have died from their injuries. Marcus found himself working with Vakrian engineers to restore the colony's fusion reactor to full functionality. The aliens were efficient and knowledgeable, but they were fascinated by the improvised modifications Marcus had made. "You used mining laser capacitors to create the electromagnetic pulse?" a Vakrian engineer named Tolrex asked. "That should not have worked. The power requirements alone should have caused a catastrophic failure." Marcus grinned. "Should have, yeah. But I figured if it was going to fail, it might as well fail in a way that took you guys down with us. Sometimes you've got to ignore the rules and see what happens." Tolrex made a gesture that Marcus came to learn was Vakrian laughter. Humans are insane, but it is an impressive kind of insanity. 3 days after the battle, a formal meeting was held aboard the Zanari vessel, neutral ground for all parties. Sarah Chen stood as representative of the colony, Captain Rodriguez for Earth Defense Command, and Commander Thexvor for the Vakrian Empire. The Zanari Elder served as mediator, its ancient presence lending weight to the proceedings. "We acknowledge wrongdoing," Thexvor began, his words translated for all present. "The Vakrian Empire came to your world seeking to expand our territory through conquest. We were repelled not by superior technology, but by superior spirit. We offer formal apology and reparations. Additionally, we propose a treaty of mutual non-aggression and the possibility of future cooperation." Sarah stepped forward. "The people of Kepler 442b have suffered greatly. We've lost friends and colleagues. Our home has been damaged. But we've also learned that the galaxy is larger and more complex than we imagined. We accept your apology, Commander. We will accept reparations to help rebuild. And we're willing to explore diplomatic relations not just with your empire, but with all species who approach us in good faith." Captain Rodriguez added his voice. "Earth Command has authorized me to sign a preliminary treaty, subject to ratification by the United Earth Government. But let me be clear, this attack on our colony will not be forgotten. It will serve as a reminder to all species in this galaxy that humanity will defend its freedom with every resource at our disposal. We hope for peace, but we are always prepared for war." The Zanari Elder's presence expanded, filling the chamber with calm. "This is a moment of significance. The Vakrian Empire has learned that conquest is not the only path to strength. Humanity has learned that the galaxy contains both threats and potential allies, and all species watching this moment understand that a new power has emerged, one that fights not just with weapons, but with an indomitable spirit." The treaty was signed with representatives of all 3 parties present. Vakrian technology would help repair and even upgrade the Kepler 442b colony. Human scientists would share their insights into adaptability and creative problem-solving. The Zanari would serve as guarantors of the peace, their ancient authority respected by both sides. As the ceremony concluded, Thexvor approached Sarah privately. "Director Chen, I must ask, when you activated that electromagnetic pulse, you knew it might leave you defenseless. You could have all died, yet you did it anyway. Why?" Sarah smiled, thinking of all the people she had led through that terrible battle. "Because being human means sometimes you have to make the hard choice. We weren't going to win by playing it safe. We weren't going to survive by doing what was logical, so we did what felt right. We hit you as hard as we could and trusted that we'd figure out the rest. That's what my species does. We hope, we adapt. We refuse to quit. And somehow, against all odds, we survive." Thexvor's mandibles clicked in his version of a smile. The Zinari tried to warn me. They said humans were special. I thought they meant you had secret weapons or advanced technology, but now I understand. You are special because you carry something that cannot be conquered, the absolute belief that tomorrow can be better than today, no matter how dark things seem. You were warned about Commander Chen, and rightfully so. I only wish I had listened before learning this lesson the hard way. As the Vacrian fleet prepared to depart, Marcus stood with Elena Martinez on an observation deck, watching the alien ships power up their quantum drives. The young woman who had been afraid before the battle now stood tall, her confidence transformed by what she had survived. "We did it," she said softly. "We actually did it," yeah, Marcus agreed. "We showed them that humans don't give up. We showed them that we're more than our technology or our numbers. We showed them what makes us special." Elena looked at him curiously. "What's that?" Marcus thought about everything that had happened, the fear and courage, the desperation and hope, the violence and mercy. "We're special because we care. We care about each other, about our freedom, about doing what's right even when it's hard. A lot of species out there might be stronger or smarter or have better technology, but I don't think any of them have quite the same mix of stubborn determination and compassionate heart that humans have. The Vacrians came here thinking they could conquer us. Instead, they learned that some things can't be conquered. Some things are too powerful to be defeated by weapons or threats. The human spirit is one of those things." On Earth, news of the Battle of Kepler 442b spread quickly. A mining colony of 3,000 people had held off an alien empire long enough for help to arrive. They had turned mining equipment into weapons, civilian courage into military victory, and then offered peace instead of revenge. The story inspired millions, a reminder that humanity's greatest strength was not in its technology or its armies, but in the hearts of ordinary people who refused to accept defeat. Commander Thexvor returned to the Vacrian Empire with a report that would change his species' understanding of the galaxy. He wrote, "When we encountered a species called humans, we were warned they were special. We did not listen. They defeated us not with superior weapons, but with superior spirit. They possess adaptability that defies logic, courage that exceeds reason, and mercy that transforms enemies into potential allies. I recommend the Empire abandon all plans for conquest of human space, not because we cannot defeat them militarily, but because the cost of such a victory would be higher than any gain. Humans do not surrender. They do not break. They hope, they adapt, and they endure. We were warned. We should have listened." The Zinari, watching from their ancient vessels, felt satisfaction. Another species had learned the truth about humanity, not through prophecy or warning, but through direct experience. The lessons learned in blood and fire were always the ones that lasted. In the rebuilt colony of Kepler 442b, a monument was erected in the central plaza. It bore the names of those who had died defending their home, human and Vacrian alike, for even the alien soldiers had been someone's loved ones. Beneath the names, an inscription read, "Here stood those who would not surrender. Here lived those who chose hope over despair, courage over fear, and peace over vengeance. Remember that humanity's strength lies not in our weapons, but in our hearts. We are special not because we cannot be conquered, but because we refuse to be. Let all who read this know we are human, we endure, we hope. We prevail." Sarah Chen stood before the monument on the anniversary of the battle. Now Deputy Ambassador to the Vacrian Empire, her life forever changed by those desperate hours when a mining colony became a symbol of human resilience. Beside her stood Marcus Webb, now Chief Engineer of Human Vacrian Joint Technology Projects, no longer running from his past but building a better future. "Think they'll ever really understand us?" Marcus asked. Sarah smiled. "Maybe not completely, but they don't need to understand us fully. They just need to respect us. And after what happened here, they do. We showed them that humans are different. We're special, not because we're perfect, but because we never stop trying to be better. That's enough." As the twin suns of Kepler 442 set on the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, the rebuilt colony hummed with life. Human and Vacrian workers collaborated on new projects. Children played in gardens that grew in soil once scorched by battle. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the ancient Zinari watched and knew that the galaxy had changed. The Vacrians had been warned. They had ignored the warning, and in learning why humans were special, they had become something special themselves. The first species to attack humanity and emerge not as conquerors or conquered, but as friends. The human story was still being written, one chapter at a time, one brave choice after another, and it was a story that would echo across the stars for generations to come. The end.